Hey, my name's Matt, and in 2018 I developed a game called Burden of Proof. Since then, I've been pretty happy with the response to this game, and glad that a lot of people were able to try it out. As you might have heard, there is a sequel coming soon, which should be released sometime next year, so definitely check that out if you're interested. But in this video, I wanted to show you a bit of a post-mortem of the game and all of the challenges that I faced in developing it. So I actually recorded most of this in 2021 when I got my friend and my sister together to watch me play through the game basically and talk about all of the little details and developer secrets along the way. So at that point, I definitely stumbled over my words even more than I do now, and didn't have the best mic quality either, or the best computer, so I apologize for the lack of fidelity in the recording. I also didn't know at the time that I would be making Burden of Truth, so you might hear some ideas that I had about what would go into a sequel, and those are definitely still relevant now, but might not necessarily line up with all the plans that I've made more recently for that kind of game. So just to preface, this is part 1, because the video is getting way too long, and it's going to be a bit rambly and a bit incoherent because this is before I even started making videos like this for my channel. I'm basically going to show you all of that cut down to be a little bit more presentable, and we're going to see what I thought of Burden of Proof in 2021. So with all that said, I didn't want this footage to go to waste, so here's the original recording, which I made a few years ago, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello, welcome to the Burden of Proof.
Post Malone.
Everything is perfect, nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
And goodbye, thank you for watching.
Development took 2 days, and yeah, no challenges or issues. Okay, hello.
You want us to say hi back?
No, not yet. Let me retake that.
Hello, Rob, how are you doing?
Whoa, the music's kicking in. Okay.
I mean, that's what it is about the Post Malone, is that you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
And now you know. You know, you had some struggles, and now it's fixed now. So now you can talk about those struggles and how you've learned from them.
Alright, so this is Burden of Proof. This is a game that I made and released back in 2018, so that's, 2.5 years ago now. And I was going to talk a bit about development and some of the challenges that I faced, as well as some of the decisions that I had to make and how everything came together. And I'm joined here by 2 amazing people that have great mic quality.
I'm trying my best, okay?
I mean, I've knocked off, like, AirPods as my microphone.
I have a gaming headset. It's the best I can do.
That's better than me. Very reflective of the quality of Burden of Proof development. So I'm just gonna play through a bit and then talk about like how I handled story and coding and stuff like that. Hopefully it's a bit insightful for new game developers or, returning game developers. It's a really tough challenge to like actually release a project, and it was a long, over a year long development, I think. Should I talk a bit about this menu?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a bit self-explanatory. I think I was kind of inspired by, I was playing a lot of Overwatch at the time, so I liked the clean sort of like ambient space look I just animated the camera to go around these things. I don't know what more there is to say. I don't really like it in hindsight because it's very bright and it's not too detailed, at least in comparison to the rest of the game. And actually it can be broken by doing this, and funnily enough the animation still plays when I'm in free mode. I'll be using the debug camera to look around and show some secrets and stuff like that. Did not check these settings because that's supposed to be off. It's a good thing I looked at the options. Yeah, so I guess I should talk about this setting because it's one that I added later on. It didn't have text skip at the beginning. The way that I wrote the novel system was kind of that it should add one in on the frame that it finds that it should add a new text in. So if you have a poor frame rate, it actually makes the text slower and stuff like that. So I didn't want to do a text skip because I think it's easy to miss the story or just kind of skip through. And I didn't want to give people that, that option of just like ignoring what the point of the game was. But I guess now, hidden in the settings, it's more likely that most people would leave it off. But I do include it in case you have those concerns. If you want to read faster, you're just missing out on some of the animations for the mouth moving and stuff like that.
It's something that the players wanted.
Yeah.
So, it's some people read a lot faster than others.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I read pretty fast, and then I have a friend who will read an entire page in like half a second, or at least it feels like to me half a second. And so, a bit, and then yet some other people that I know take forever to read.
And I was also thinking about making like a speed option to like customize how fast it goes, but it just ended up being too much to dig through. Yeah, especially after the game was out. So it's kind of hard to go through your old code and try to re-understand everything that you did. Okay.
No, you're a new person, so
yeah,
you go through it and you're like, who's this idiot?
Yeah. That's why I put comments. It's just so that, when I go back to it, I can understand. Not for anyone else. Extras.
Why did you take these pieces of furniture?
Because that's what I had in Cross's office.
Oh.
The whole, moving thing is nice. It's just too bad you broke it.
Well, excuse me.
Hey, this is not a normal thing in the game. This is you breaking it because you're the developer.
I'm allowed to break it, yeah. I think this was supposed to represent Cross's office, or his mind office or something like that, because
his mind palace.
Yeah, it's all just items that he would have in his office. It's nothing else. So that was kind of the point there. Okay, so new game from the beginning?
Yeah. Let's play through the entire game.
Great.
Yeah, you guys got 10 hours, right?
Oh, I forgot about this. I thought, okay. It's my own game and I don't remember the first line. Yeah, so this is, in the style of games like Phoenix Wright, Danganronpa. It's a visual novel, so text is the whole story. I went with a sort of clear and sleek look. It's just a rectangle. And then the nameplate up here. So similar to what you'd see in Phoenix, right?
I mean, it's hard to beat just clear rectangles.
Yeah. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
I mean, this is a thing that every game did until Persona 5, which came out years after this game. So it...
After Burden of Proof, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it 2016?
Persona 5.
2016 or 17.
Pretty sure it was 2017.
That's still before this game came out.
When did this game come out?
2018.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Aren't you listening to the intro?
Yeah, I said in the intro.
No, I'm talking now. I'm thinking about Persona 5. When did that come out? That's
I'm
what
pretty
I'm
sure it was
thinking.
2017, but here, you can verify that
I'm gonna do it right now.
it was on July 26th, 2018 was released.
2016. Persona 5 came out that old?
Yeah, maybe it didn't have a US release until later.
Ah, see, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Wait, when did it come out in the US? See, all right. See, this is the
2017.
stuff that's gonna be cut because
No, this is all going in.
no.
One take, no cut.
Yeah.
No, it came out in 2016. Wow. It came out like really?
Just didn't catch on until later, I think.
That's crazy. Damn.
Anyways, so something that I would change if I was to go back and do this is that I don't like how it goes all the way to the edge of the screen, basically the text box. I think I've learned now that for accessibility reasons, you want to keep it close to the center and maybe even smaller font, because you don't want people's eyes darting across the whole screen when they're trying to read things. Lesson learned, but I think it still works.
It's hard to like remember all these small things.
Yeah,
that add up.
I think it worked better.
Maybe adjustable text size, but
yeah,
at that point, you're messing so much with the UI that it's hard to make sure everything looks pretty with all settings.
I think it worked in Phoenix Wright because you were playing that on a small DS, so it was fine to take up the whole screen because that's what you had to do in order to get the font there. But yeah, for a PC game running in 1080p, probably different scenario. For the story, he's talking about this sword. So he's going a little crazy at the beginning. That's fine. And here he is. This is like a bit of a plot point that is carried on through the whole game. And this intro I actually didn't write until way late in development. It was supposed to actually just start with the actual first crime of the first chapter. But I felt like it needed something to draw you in right from the first sentence. Because if you'll notice in the crime scene later, it's basically just an introduction between our main characters and the police officer and all that stuff. So I found that to be pretty boring, and I wanted to introduce like some sort of drama or mystery from the first line. That was the goal. So I added in this scene, this whole plot thread, and, you know, reworked other parts of the story to fit around this. And I'm not sure if this sword actually was just a regular piece of evidence later on, and then I just reworked it to fit at the beginning. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's sort of the whole argument that when are you supposed to write the introduction?
Yeah.
Personally, I always wrote it last.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to keep all your thoughts in order, especially because you don't always know where the story's going when you're first writing it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you listen to Mr. Kojima, he says that the first part of a game is the most important. And, you know, there's a lot of inspiration, some people have pointed out, also from Metal Gear and works of that kind. That's definitely true. So, I think...
especially in modern games.
Yeah.
Where people will return it super fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about what happened with Cyberpunk, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So many people immediately returned it even though they had pre-ordered it.
Yeah,
so the beginning ends up being a huge part of the entire experience.
Yep.
Because it determines whether people will want to keep playing.
Mm-hmm. And I guess towards the end of development, I felt like this was one of the best areas that I had, mainly because of, like, you know, this bridge thing I thought was pretty cool, and I thought it fit into things that were going to happen later. I wanted to leave the courtroom for when the trial begins. I wanted to like build it up and then hit you with that like courtroom experience, like this is real and that sort of feel. One thing that's interesting is actually that it already has some of the evidence from a later case. That's because the camera angle like never actually sees over here, so I don't have to bother like hiding it and making it reappear. So the next time that you come back to this location, there would have already
There's another
been,
murder.
Yeah, there would have already been a crime that happened at this place. So the evidence, it's already here, even though...
No, you could argue that it just didn't happen. This is the lore. This is the lore. This murder already happened, and no one noticed.
Well, that's not part of the lore. This is supposed to be from something else, which specifically happens after this, but, no one really notices.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it, is, people only notice what you're able to show them.
Yeah. I mean, games pull a lot of tricks, to, like, hide things that they don't want people to see. Guess I can go in here. So this is... later on in the game, people that know what happens, you end up in the sewers, and this is supposed to be the connecting point. So this door right here is actually where, although it's not quite to scale, but it is where that other crime scene will happen later on. Performance budget was really tight on this, so I couldn't do a whole lot, and I didn't really have the experience to do a whole lot, but I did try to make...
you were also making it on a potato.
Yes. That's why the performance budget was, so strict. So, I guess... sorry for taking too long in this one line, but... this environment I did build pretty far out because I wanted to have, like, wide shots or make it feel like it's connected and full. So I just built this whole terrain in Blender. It's not a Unity terrain, it's just a 3D model. Stacked on some decal textures for variation. Placed down a few trees, and obviously doesn't look that great in 2021, but improvements.
This is also with the engine improvements as well. As the Unity engine has gotten more mature, you're able to do a lot more.
Yeah, I'd say so. Definitely with like cutscenes and cinematography and stuff. Like, I don't think we had what's it called? A timeline back then. I really couldn't handle like full-fledged real-time cutscenes because there was just no tool to preview the camera during those animations. Some nice fences, just show a bit around. And the city here is just, slap down a ton of buildings. That's how the environments kind of go in this game. Even some that don't make sense.
You can't see most of this. That's not fair.
Oh, I know. But it's just fun to, poke fun at it or, explore what's out here. Because I feel like...
It's all background, so even with the colliding geometry, it looks good from far away.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of neat for me because I feel like most people play through this and then not get to see some of the secrets that I put in. I do use these decals to add in extra stuff. This was a change that I made later in development, so in order to give more depth, I just put on another texture over this. So you can see right here is where it ends. I just manually placed a plane with this transparent thing to be like dirt, and it goes along the whole line here. So that's a trick that I use in a lot of indoor areas too. And you can even see right here where it overlaps.
You're never gonna see it.
Yeah.
In game.
But again, like, I just think it's fun to point out this stuff for developers and all that stuff, so it's never gonna be perfect. You just had to work and try to hide as much as you can. You can also see that there's particles here, so that's another trick to make the exploration areas more interesting and dynamic. I just play back these particle systems that act as dust, so it's hard to see, but you can see there's like a dust volume specifically around this one area.
You can definitely see it. We'll see what happens to YouTube compression, but it's very clear to us. You can see it.
And when the camera never leaves this area, you can never tell that the dust is only in this area. Because it blocks the camera view. It's another trick that I thought was pretty cool. So, you can actually see that there's stuff on the sword, which is blocked out. And in the texture for the sword, I thought it was pretty funny. I put in, like, a little secret that's outside of the UV range, which is just text that says, like, you can't find the the writing here. I bet if someone was able to, like, really hack the game or something, they could find it. Oh. So he can't read the writing that's on this sword. He also did a little animation where he, like, nodded his head, so I built that into the animation system where it can, like, wait for certain actions to happen. And then when the action is done is when it plays the script, so it's like a one-time, instead of this loop that he's doing right now. So I also added support for colored text and stuff like that whenever he thinks it's italics and blue, so that's just straight up what Phoenix Wright does. Thought it would be fine for this. The animated camera was also pretty interesting to implement. I just took 2 camera points instead of 1 and, moved it over some time. And I also had to disable auto cam when that's happening, because normally when text plays, it snaps to who's speaking, and that's a trick to make development a lot easier. So it uses the actual nameplate, matches that against an object in the scene, and then puts the camera on that.
I mean, it sounds like, oh yeah, just little things, but they'll add up.
Yeah.
It took a year.
Like, the fact that it has auto cam probably saved, dozens of hours of trying to manually code in all those cameras and stuff. It also doesn't just, like, point the camera at an object. I register them at the start of each script, so that's what I call camera registry. It's a concept where, like, I set up a camera with angles specifically relative to some object, so like his character, and then when it does the auto cam, it matches it to that camera that I set up at the beginning. And this scene is also positioned according to a map that I drew that appears later on. So this is like south of town, I believe. That's why all the stuff that happens in the city is actually over there in this scene. Okay, so now we're getting into the... Oh, not yet. So now we're getting into the little cutscene. This is pre-rendered in Blender, and the rain effect was just done by overlaying stock footage, so it's not actual particles or anything like that.
Potato.
And it took a long time to render on my potato. So I just took the gun model and put it in space. There's actually no hand connecting it. And that's a composite with some motion blur. So a nice little trick is that I continued the ambient sound and the particles into the title of Chapter 1. So now it switches to real-time graphics, and we are horribly disappointed because it's not epically raining.
Yeah, look at the poor The poor potato.
Here he goes. Okay, so the car. Oh, it's right into the car there. So the car is actually just another character. That's how I did it. So just like all the other characters, the car is just an entity, and then I just told it to walk here. So it did that during the script, timed the camera angles to like do that stuff. So getting a look at some of this model here. It's supposed to be a combination of both the Japanese police officers that you see in Phoenix Wright and officers that you'd see in the US. So I don't know how well that translated, but
He's got lots of pockets.
yeah, for bullets. I don't know.
Ah, see, that's how you know he's American.
Yeah.
Why is he saluting to them?
Because that's just what he does. So he the officer characters, and really I only have one model for officer. I think it is supposed to be multiple of them, but I think it became like an inside joke that I just used the same one, so I end up always having the same personality and tone from this one guy. So rigged a little poorly there on his shirt. But overall, I think most of these characters kind of based on the same model idea. I mostly tweaked the clothing. He's probably a duplicate of like Detective Dare or something like that I modified. And here's our two heroes here, just standing. So this is supposed to introduce that he's not, very cheerful. He's just kind of...
A sullen.
Yeah. And that's an example of animation within the line itself, which I thought was kind of neat. It lets me do things like emphasize certain words or stuff like that. You can see some of the mouth movements. That's done by just layering another animation layer on the top. So I just have one mouth animation, which is just them garbling nonsense, and then I apply it whenever they're writing out characters here. So he's going to actually do something kind of funny here. And then it just cuts to him. Yeah, and then
Sweating nervously.
since the camera doesn't change, I just leave him here to salute this wall. So he walked away while he was saluting. That's actually, another inside joke. I was working on layering and stuff like that, even though I didn't really need it in the end, but just ways of specifying that certain animations should ignore the lower part so they can do multiple walking actions while doing things with his hands. I think that might have been to like have people reading while they're walking or thinking while they're walking or stuff like that, but it was just a glitch, really. It was basically an oversight because I didn't want him to... I wanted him to cancel his salute before he walked away, but I never...
It's not an oversight, it's a feature.
Yeah, so I just never canceled his salute. And it ended up with him walking away while he was doing that. But I just left it in. When Cross is sweating, he has these actual sweat particles that come off of his face. I felt like that was a nice little detail, and actually other characters do it too. Definitely enjoyable. And then here's Cross breaking the fourth wall. Ah yes, the action button.
Oh, it was spacebar. Ah, yes, of course.
How silly, he forgot.
Okay, so now we're into the exploration parts. So this is a hybrid game, so you can walk around in certain parts. So I think I added, there's just invisible walls here, so you can't go out. So I realized, like, yeah, we're actually in America. That's where it takes place. Yet they drove on the left side to get to this. So I just thought it would be funny to make a little explanation for this. Yeah, it did make for a pretty cinematic shot.
It did, though.
Yeah, so this is a repeat, so I can exit it early.
So in case if you were wondering, yes, they did drive on the wrong side of the road, and yes, we knew.
Yeah. He makes a lot of little comments when you, like, try to go out of bounds. Breaking the fourth wall. I had a lot of fun with that stuff. So even though we're in America, this is half in Korean. So that's supposed to be a little Easter egg for one of a future project idea that I had. Basically, it would have been another visual novel that involved, like, an airship flying to Korea, I think. So I wanted to sort of hint at that and, like, add in these, like, cultural references or, you know, words into the world of this game. But I ended up not doing that idea yet. Might get to it later, but that's the explanation for why that's there. And you'll see that across other signs in this game too. Here's the taxi model. That one taxi that he just has to take. You know, it's like these cones here to stop you from leaving. So I guess there's nothing too funny there. It's just this is before I went crazy with the fourth wall breaks. So as you can imagine, the reason for this little interaction is because I want to introduce the concept of investigation before you actually go into the actual investigation zone.
Ah, yes.
So
Classic game design.
this actually didn't exist. I think he originally either you just walked up and went straight to the top, or he just warped to the top. There was no exploration on this bottom part. Yeah, using the interact button, of course. Okay, so then you have to look around for the ID card, and it's in here. So texture's a little broken. An ID card. So it actually has, you know, information that I filled out for this character. Rebecca Flowers actually shows up later on in this chapter. It's a little bit of foreshadowing because she works at this, at the building next door. This one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one will mind. Yeah. Yeah, I struggled to design this because I wasn't sure how everything should be laid out. But I actually asked a friend, and she came up with an idea that I should have, you know, the character in the shots that you can show, like, I don't know, maybe what his mood is, or that, like, he's the one looking through this evidence. And later on, when you play as Chloe, it'll switch this, which was a big programming challenge, actually.
See, right there's something that, you know, you could have had that changeable. Did you know that she was going to be there when you made the stuff?
I don't think so. I think the story wasn't written by that point when I made this, so. The point of this box here is to show what you're presenting. Later on there'll be questions, and then you have to answer them, so I wanted to show what the question was at the top, so you didn't have to tab out to look at it. So it felt right to have a character to, you know, be next to that. You know, he's thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a PNG.
Yeah, the PNG. So, details here, and this little button. Not sure if it's clear on that. Maybe should have changed that somewhere else, but just shows a expanded view of what it is. You know, some poor cropping there on the on the PNG, unfortunately. And some of this stuff was meant to be placeholder, but somehow stayed in. Like this X. I don't think I don't think that was meant to be the final icon for this. You know, like some things like just stayed in because I was running out of time and so on. So for this animation where he's pointing, I actually animated his little cloth flaps here. It's kind of unnatural when you look at it up close like this.
Kind of looks like he's just always farting.
Yeah. But in the context of the shot, most of these you can barely see that stuff, so it's just a little bit of extra motion. That's done by just putting more bones in the rig that are weighted to his jacket, so when it moves. And the same thing for his hair. You can kind of see that it moves around, so that was my way of avoiding cloth physics or stuff like that. Okay, so this is not clear because I'm not on the right tab. So maybe it should like select or show in a little arrow or something like that, but okay, so that's a section transition. So it tracked the game through like these integer values that just increment up when the section changes. At some point it also switches to days incrementing and then chapters incrementing. So that's just my way of keeping track of where you are in the game. Okay, so this is where he introduces who he is.
Well, it's not like his name has been right on top of everything.
But we didn't know his first name.
Ah, that's true.
Although maybe we did because he just called him Conrad.
I mean,
So here's his job. He's the assistant to Mr. Nail. But flash transition into investigation. Yeah, so just in case you forgot how you got the ID.
Don't forget the only piece of evidence that you have in your pocket.
Yeah, don't forget the space bar. That's the important part. And then he's over here sweating in the corner. So that little sequence was just a callback to the Zero Escape series, where they show each, area that you can inspect, and then at the end they go like, seek a way out, or do the do the investigation. So this is sort of mimicking that, showing all of the aspects that you might want to take a look at. And actually it helped people to understand where things were when I tested it, so that they didn't miss anything. Okay, so here's the crime scene.
they just left the dead body there.
Yeah, well, he's over here doing something else, the officer. And apparently this is the only officer investigating this. And it is just the same model as before. But I tried to hide it by making him do this crouched animation. Oh. A little bit of lore there. You can see the sweat dripping all the way down to the floor. So yeah, that's what I was saying about these officers having more of a personality. So this was a simple setup when I was writing this. It's supposed to be the introductory case, and it was based on an idea that I had. This is a remote crime. Spoilers.
Hey! Rude as hell. It's like saying that Romeo and Juliet die at the end of the play.
Alright, I'll censor it. I'll leave it.
Wow, spoiler. I didn't know that.
So this back here, I'm not sure if everyone that played has realized, but this is not a mistake. You can go here. It looks like it's away from the crime and out of bounds, but it is just a little secret area here. And I really had to stack these cars to make the bounce makes sense. So these police cars are just like jammed in here. This guy somehow got here, and the rest is just tape.
Shh! Don't break the fourth wall.
Well, I'm about to break the fourth wall right here. And just a small detail that his feet are actually rotating based on the ground. It's like the smallest thing that you would never notice for this kind of game, but I did build in IK to handle these situations. So, a bit of a Stanley Parable there, like, oh, you thought you had cheated the game and broken everything, but yeah, the developer only detailed this floor. So, you know, should really turn around. But, you know, I considered what if the player goes back, and since they have the ability to increment the script counter, I can make it different depending on how many times you interact with something. Yeah. Want to keep the focus on that investigation. So now it's become like, you know, do what the designer says or else. And then I went a little overboard here. It's like, you know, do you really want to see? And then I made it a choice. So, let's say yes. Alright, I get it. So, what is down there? Are you curious?
Yeah.
Let's find out. So, yeah, there's no detail. It's just... and this actually is underneath. So, that is the correct physical location for where he would have ended up. And in fact, all the floors are like this. They're just duplicates. Small aside is that I did manually unload this stuff down here. If you noticed before, there were like cars and things when you were investigating, but when the section changes, I...
Potatoes.
Yeah. Had to disable those. And I didn't have much of a concept of level of detail back in the day, so the best...
I mean, this is a naive level of detail, though, and it's probably something that they do in bigger titles as well.
Yeah, but they would probably do it in a more automatic sense, you know?
True.
So yeah, there's nothing down here. You're wondering what happens if we go down again?
No, really, we're done. I have to go back to the investigation.
So yeah, and then that's it. That'll repeat. Okay. So, it's the last item, I think. I just called this guy an item. Oh, poor guy.
I mean, he was a guy. Now he's an item.
Oh, right, so the camera. I think I was telling you about this when I first started, that I wanted to make... Since I was doing this game in 3D, it would be nice to have a camera feature where you could, like, take pictures of the evidence and then use those same pictures in the trial. For the longest time, that was actually a big feature that I wanted to implement. And the idea would be that there's a first-person mode and all, which I haven't showed, but that would have turned into using the camera, and you could take pictures of this stuff, and it would try to detect whether or not what you took a picture of was evidence. But that made it a little complicated because, you know, could you miss evidence, or what if you couldn't find where to take a picture? You would need some minimum amount of picture, you know, level.
Yeah.
They would have to provide you with pictures so that you wouldn't miss everything. And what if you had too many pictures? Like, what if I just took a picture of everything? It would just have so much evidence that it would be tough to sort through. A lot of complications with that system that just didn't end up in the game.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have to treat players like idiots sometimes. But then also like complete geniuses. because you can't have them figuring out exploits.
I think as far as like exploits go, I don't think there's any way to actually clip out. There's only those like little Easter eggs that look like you're going out of the level, but this is using the character controller instead of rigid body, so it's more reliable. You can't like miss frames or clip through things. It's what I use in a lot of my games because it's easy to work with and it handles pretty good collision. So now that I've done everything, I have a little marker system where it just lists off the stuff that I've done. So once I've completed a script, it saves that I've completed it, and then this script can then check whether or not all those conditions are met.
The Windows is open. You can just like see the inside. I would have just like made those windows closed.
Well, the thing is, they have to be open for the crime.
Oh.
It's a point of the story that they are slightly open. So, unfortunately, I didn't make this car. This was a free asset that I took.
What about that purple car?
No.
Did you make any of the cars?
95% of the cars were free assets. This one I made.
Are you in New York? I guess.
So, this is a little bit of a secret here. Hinting at where this game is actually taking place, so. It actually says right here. I won't say any more, because that's part of the mystery. I also made the police car. Or at least I think I heavily modified it from something else. I forget. I think it was modified, yeah. But again, I didn't make it, so it's not my detail.
Why is it on the right side of the...
Shh.
Anyway.
I didn't even know this was here. You know, it's like... Apparently there's a vent.
I gotta have air conditioning.
This is inside out. These faces are not correct. Let's get to the top. I think at some point the roof was planned to be something, but no. Here's the car again. This time without plate.
This is in a different city that you built than like what you showed earlier.
Yeah, it's a different scene. Or a different level, I guess you could say. So, this building was specially made because it's important in the story. So.
Yeah, everything else is just a rectangle.
Oh, you're back.
Is that why it has like more of an orange red color than a gray?
Yeah, to make it stand out. And we'll also see this building from a distance in a later scene. Okay, so we have our first question about the actual crime, although it's by our mentor here. So, it's this one. Oh, I should have presented something else. Oh well. So, new information has been given to us, so the evidence gets updated.
Whoa!
Yeah.
He was shocked.
And I did have a tough time with his eyes.
Don't look at them too hard.
Yeah. Most of the shots are from the side, and it was really tough to, like, line it up. Oh my gosh. Because it didn't... In some cases where it's, like, more from the side, it didn't look right, I think, when they were perfectly aligned.
I mean, that's a trick I think a lot of more stylized games use, is that you make sure it looks good from the one camera angle you show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the camera angle you show.
There it is. And yeah, that was actually there the whole time. I like how we just get the same picture of it. Just took the screenshot tool and just took that moment. Trials tomorrow. So yeah, then in this world, the justice system is insane. They'll have trials immediately after. Constantly under time limits to find the evidence, you know, not having enough evidence, and that's part of the story, part of the lore, that the courts are speeding up and becoming more dramatized. Okay, so the defendant is Gardner and the victim is Yard. All the characters have weird pun names. In this case, you know, there's Gardner, the one being suspected of the crime, and then there's Yard. The gardener is gardening the yard. Get it? No.
I got it. Well, I got it after you explained it.
And then...
But I probably would have picked that up.
Yeah, later on there will be Rebecca Flowers, as we've seen, so the flower in the yard
I just realized.
being gardened. So, there's a theme.
Ramona Flowers.
Rebecca Flowers.
Do you know who Ramona Flowers is?
No.
She's from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Okay, well now I know. Okay, so the autopsy report. So, what he did there was I just used the pointing animation, and his hand appeared off screen, so I just used that to make it seem like he handed over the autopsy there. So, there's actually a ton of details in the actual texture of this, but it's hard to see in the game unless you're running it in like 4K. But I did make this entire page custom. It has some secret writing. Uh-oh. So here we're introducing what will become our opponent in the trial. Ooh, dunked.
Burn.
So, this little line here, like, the defense can investigate. If you haven't played Phoenix Wright, it might not make sense, but in that game series, it's a weird rule that, like, they let the prosecution examine the scene, and then the defense has to just wing it, or, like, fudge their way into the scene somehow and learn what they can.
That sounds messed up.
Yeah. So this was a change that I just wanted to make clear, that, like, both parties get time to look at it, and that's important because, spoilers, someone will be changing sides. Oh, right. As if you didn't know it. So, this question is, who owns the car in Spot 002? So for a lot of these, like, who questions, or like ones where you have to present a profile, I actually added in some extra responses in case you guessed the wrong one. I mean, it's me, what more can I say? But if I present me... he has this dumb, happy face on his, like, happy look.
On his mug.
Yeah.
His
me,
mug shot.
I own the car. And then just disappointment. Yeah, so I think a lot of people miss that for most of the profile questions, you can actually present Conrad, because, you know, it's never him. So, and the flip side of that is that, ironically, the final question of the game, the answer is Conrad. Spoilers again.
Boy.
Damn, why you gotta ruin the whole ending to your own game?
People won't know when the final question is. That's, you know, it's
You
you.
won't.
You own the car. No. So, ideally, like, I would have loved to do every single possibility here. Still has a smug look, but due to development time constraints and stuff like that. I tried to keep the cast small, or at least as small as I could. So it worked to the story's advantage to be reusing characters for later sequences and, you know, foreshadowing them when I had them so that I could bring novelty during the right moments. You can imagine who the witness will be. Spoilers. It's mentioned right here. Okay, so this is where I think the game really comes to life, and it's unfortunate that I didn't think of better ways to introduce the characters and the situation. Like, maybe could have added more urgency, more action. But I do think this is where the game starts to shine, is where we go through the heavy logic of what happened and solving the mystery that's been presented to us. Hey, so thanks for making it through to the end. I hope this was insightful. This is just part 1, so in part 2 we're going to cover what the trials look like and some behind the scenes in the Unity project itself. I probably have even more thoughts that I could go into if I was to record this again, but I'm definitely glad to actually get this footage out there. And if you have been interested in Burden of Proof, I highly encourage you to check out the sequel, Burden of Truth, which should be coming next year. It's going to follow up on a lot of the same plot lines and provide that courtroom puzzle experience once again. So if you like this video and care to see more, feel free to check out part 2. It should be uploaded soon. There will be a link somewhere here. And in the meantime, thank you so much for your support, and feel free to subscribe and like the video, share it wherever you can. Every little bit helps a lot. And as my closing thoughts here, I'll just say I really appreciate everyone who has supported Burden of Proof, and it's only thanks to you that I've been able to continue my game development journey and improve on everything that I've been doing. So thanks for playing, and see you in the next one.